Hello everybody, it's guubums back with another coaching video. So today I'll be coaching a platinum player. He plays on mobile, so it's a little bit different than probably what you're going to be used to. That being said, I think there's still going to be lots to learn with this video, just because at the end of the day it's still TFT. As usual, for those of you guys who are interested in coaching, you guys can click the link in the description below to find my Discord, and all the relevant information can be found there. My other socials are also there, and I guess other than that, let's just get into the video. Okay, hey, what's up?
How you doing, bro?
Doing good. First question I like to ask is like high level. What do you think are like gonna be the most important things you kind of get out of this coaching video, or what lessons are you looking to learn? Kind of like what weaknesses do you think you have? And yeah.
One thing I want to learn is I usually have a certain comp in mind whenever I start out the game. One thing that I've been playing recently is like Heavenly Yone with Lee Sin, but I find that what I've been doing is I've only been purchasing the units for that comp, instead of like getting strongest board early and then transitioning later. So I kind of want to learn how to play strongest board and then transition into a different comp. Figure out good item holders, stuff like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, just kind of how to adjust because a lot of times I'm contested and I end up just holding hands with the person and hoping that I beat them maybe with econ or tempo or something else. So yeah, how to be more flexible also, I'd say.
Okay, so I noticed like the very first thing I noticed is like you're playing on mobile. Obviously, like
Mhm.
if this is something you enjoy doing, if this is something like that you're used to, like obviously feel free to do so. I think back in the day, people actually did hit challenger. Actually, someone most notably hit like rank one or top 10 or something like that. Playing mobile, but like maybe like 5 years, 4 years ago or something like that. It is rare. There are a lot of like kind of like detriments to playing mobile that it's kind of like hard to notice until you start playing on the computer. You can scout more, your actions take faster. So something I noticed about your profile is despite overall like you doing pretty like normal, like this is pretty normal tier graph, your win rate's a little bit lower than average or significantly lower than average. And I
Mhm.
think actually like one of the biggest problems with mobile, especially in the late game, is that positioning is going to be really tough. So it's hard to like understand how exactly you should position against like in a 1v1 situation or even in a top 3 situation, just because like you're playing on mobile and the interface is like pretty limited. So I think like one thing is like if you're actually like really interested in kind of like getting better at TFT or like climbing up to higher ranks, that's going to be one thing that is like going to be make a very immediate impact on that kind of like goal. Otherwise, once again, if you choose to play with mobile, it's completely fine. But yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Just let's get into the video or get into your VOD.
You're not sharing your screen yet, by the way, just in case.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Uh,
Okay, I got it.
okay.
I will say the early game, this particular game is much more like scuffed than usual. Like it's not usually this bad,
Sure.
but you know,
Okay, so for the most part in the early game, you should be thinking mostly how to play around one cost. I think like two costs should, or 2 and 3 costs should be like a good addition to your board rather than kind of like what you should be playing your board around. So right now, like the most obvious kind of example of that is it's best to have Rek'Sai and Kobuko on your board. Reason is Shen's worth 2 gold. I see that obviously he's part of your Exalted, so there's some value there. That being said, to activate this at all in the early game, you'll either need a Yona or an Ashe. Ashe is
yeah,
obviously borderline unattainable, and Yon is like obviously pretty rare. So like that, the value of Exalted here is pretty low. Um,
yeah.
so that's probably not worth considering as much. And the reason why Shen can't go on your board is because pretty much gold in the early game on stage one gets dropped in bundles of two. So you get like 2 gold, 2 gold, 2 gold, or sometimes you get four, sometimes you get six. But the point is it drops in bundles of two. And
Huh?
your shop obviously costs 5 gold, and you start the game off with 2 gold plus the 1 unit you have. And then when they drop you another 2 gold, you can buy 4 of the units in shop. You used to be able to buy all five, but now you can only buy four. So having Shen on bench is a lot better generally, just because more often than not you want to be buying out your entire first shop, unless the unit drop you got is like really really strong. So certain examples of that's going to be like maybe stuff like Kiana is really strong in the meta right now. York tends to be pretty good just because it has Umbral trait. Umbral trait's a really good trait in the early game. Sometimes you need something that like sometimes you get dropped like 2 3 costs. Say it's like Alawi and Amumu. You can like play your entire early game frontline with Alawi and Amumu, so those don't get sold either. But the point is, it's like in general, especially for 2 costs, you do want to be kind of like at least leaving yourself the option to pick up these units out of your shop. So the best way to go about that is to leave Shen on bench, play like Rek'Sai and Kobuko, just because they have Bruiser. And as far as you understand, given the information that you know, this is going to be the best way to kind of like construct your early game board.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it might seem like a small thing. I think most of the time, like in this case, you actually got drop gold, so most of the time you'll be able to pick up your shop anyway. But like over the course of a lot of games, you'll just much more consistently be able to get kind of your early game online if you do like little things like this. You mentioned like something that you struggled with your early games, like finding item holders and like picking up units that aren't specific to your comp. So something like this is going to be able to get you the practice you need to kind of start doing that better.
Okay. I think one of the reasons why I played the early game so differently is because I got Shen, I saw he was exalted, and then in my head I was like, oh, how can I fit him in? Ordinarily I think I would have put the Rek'Sai and the Kobuko,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I
I
think that's fine.
okay.
I think Exalted's like most obviously Exalted, because there are game to game differences between Exalteds. You're going to
Mhm.
find that like that changes up your early game a lot. But just like the I guess overall principles of the early game, like just staying if you like stick to like certain criteria to like figure out how you can construct your early game board. Like I think you picking up, for example, Yasuo and Ari was really good. Um, these are generally strong early game units. Obviously, they pair together in some way, right? So
Yep.
I think selling the Kha'Zix pair, normally speaking, I would say selling Kha'Zix pair is like from like a principle perspective, it's like really bad because obviously it's a paired unit in the early game. I think you should be willing to upgrade almost anything. That being said, Kha'Zix is quite literally the worst unit in the game, so I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit more acceptable to sell Kha'Zix than normal. But say for example that was like a Rek'Sai pair or something like that, a Rek'Sai Ari pair
Mhm.
or Yasuo pair, then that's not something you can sell. So first
Yeah.
like major thing here is that because you picked up your first Yasuo, you really have to be picking up this Yasuo, second Yasuo. You really once again the major thing here is that like you're picking up every unit in your shop on these first rounds that you can. The most important thing to look for at first is pairs, pairs and upgrades. Obviously, like if you have three of a kind upgrades,
Hmm.
so pairs and upgrades are really important. But otherwise, like just like understanding kind of like setting up how your team's going to do damage and also how your team is going to like absorb damage, right? So like
Yeah.
generally speaking, like maybe you'll hear streamers talk about like frontline and backline. Pretty much it's just establishing your frontline and establishing your backline to some degree. Certain units such as like Darius, almost double as like both in one. So like these are like the bruiser type units. You'll see maybe something like a Gnar or a Kiana kind of like double as these type as well. They're like half frontline, half backline. But
Yep.
the major idea that you're really looking for is like you need to find a DPS source and you need to find a tank, or and then you're gonna find like so normally you have like 3 to 4 units in the early game. You want to find like two pairs, sorry, a pair of tanks and a pair of DPS units. And the reason why that's true is because you want to find like one major DPS unit and one major tank, but another unit in the form of synergies or in the form of like spreading damage or like supplementing damage will kind of like aid your tank, your main tank, and your main DPS in
Okay.
being able to complete the role. So in your case, say like Yasuo, obviously if you hit Yasuo pair, Yasuo 2, that's going to be really strong for your early game. He's an excellent frontliner. Ari is a good backliner, so they already like within their own synergy web, they already pair well with each other. But then
Right.
obviously you can like pair it up with another duelist and the arcanist and so forth. So just like once again, the high level thing is just make sure you're picking up pairs in the early game. I think understanding which ones are strong and which ones are weak is going to be like a little bit less important, just because it's really meta dependent, it's really patch dependent. So
Yeah.
for you specifically, as you're trying to like improve as a player at your level, I think just understanding like the standard the stuff you have to do every game is going to be more important than which
Yeah.
specific units to hold.
That makes sense. And then here I get the Sivir, so I'm like, oh, I'm at 2 out of 3 exalted, but I'm not considering the fact that Yone is probably still a long way away. So
Right.
I'm right now like not sure what I'm playing yet, which is why it's kind of like that's why I said like the early game was kind of scuffed
Mm-hmm.
because I was overthinking.
So one of the ways to get that is one, twos, threes. You mentioned like Yone is a long way away. You're not wrong. So Yone, you can only get Yone if you're at least level 4, and then even still, it's like a 1 in like 11 chance that it's the 3 cost that you want, and each shop
Mm-hmm.
will show you roughly 1 3 cost, right? So the chance that you actually hit Yone here, before like Exalted starts mattering less, is pretty low. I think mid game, if say for example you have a Sivir 2 and a Shen 2, and you hit a random Yone or a random Ashe, then that is something you can be thinking about. That is something that could be like really powerful for you in the mid game. But I think like
Mm-hmm.
in general, if you're gated by a 3 cost for your Exalted or your Fortune, for example, then it's not something really worth playing for all that much. Obviously, if you do get it naturally, then it's something that you can put in and it's something that you can be happy about. But it's not something that like, oh, you should like kind of dictate that you should let dictate your entire game, right? That being said, one of the ways to actually get Yone in the early game is 1/2/3s. It gives you 1/3 cost champ. You have like 1 in 11 or something like that, 1 in 12 maybe to hit the 3 cost that you want. So this is a really
Yeah.
strong augment in general. I would pick this. Obviously, I don't know what you end up picking, but
Okay, I actually would have thought that that wouldn't be the right choice because then if I don't get the 3 cost that I want, then really I'm down an augment just for like 3 gold that I'm getting from that 3 cost.
we have to think about like this, right? So it gives you 3 1 cost champs, 2 2 cost champs. That's 3 + 4 + 3. It gives you 10 gold for silver. A lot of
Okay.
gold augments. So it's raining gold is the kind of like the I guess standardized gold augment that gives econ. That
Hmm.
gives you 8 gold and 1 gold per turn for the rest of the game. So 8 gold. When you get 8 gold, you're not really getting 8 gold, right? Like you're getting 8 gold plus what is close to 1 gold per turn on top of the 1 gold it already gives you. Reason is like if you go from 2 gold to 10 gold with 8 extra gold, is that you're making econ every turn. So you're not really getting 8 gold. You're getting like 8 + 2 per turn roughly. This augment is you're getting 10 + 1 per turn, but it's also a silver augment instead of a gold augment. So this augment has actually like historically been extremely strong at all levels of play. Um, because it's not just the champions. It's like if you sell off every single champion and it gives you no immediate value, the gold value of it is still really high for a silver. So 10 gold plus, compared to, for example, Silver Spoon, it gives you 10 XP immediately, but 10 XP is always 10 XP, right? You can't, well,
It's good.
it has a little bit of weird things just because 10 is an off interval, so it lets you level on 3-1. Whatever, minor kind of
Yeah,
like caveat to that statement. But point is, it's like 10 gold. This is the best version of 10 gold you can get because even if it gave you 10 gold with no champions, it would still be significantly worse than this augment, which is giving you 10 gold with champions. Obviously, these champions can amount to, let's say, an upgrade or like the 2 2 cost champs, for example, could be 2 Shens, right? It's not likely, but it is possible. The 3 cost champ in your case could be Yone, and you could get Exalted.
exhausted.
So yeah, just in general, this augment is really strong. I would say stay away from bulk or any cybernetic augment on stage 2, just
Yeah,
because.
I didn't want to, but
Mhm.
I didn't think of it the way you just explained. If I had thought of it that way, I definitely would have taken 1 2 and 3.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like that's just like early game like augment choices are a little bit tough. So like making the wrong choice is not really that big of an issue, but just like long term, just like thinking about the augments in this type of way will just like help you kind of pick your augments, even as like the game progresses. So it's like this is not strictly speaking only true for stage 2. There's like different ways you can think about it for stage 3 and stage 4 that'll help as well.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think this line is fine. Another reason to like kind of like stay away from bulk, I guess, is that pretty much your items are actually really good. So bow, rod, glove, you can slam either Last Whisper or Rage Blade are both really good items to make in the early game. GG is a little bit
Mhm.
worse, so I'm just going to try to not talk about that too much. But because you know the item you can make is good, then you're also less likely to spread your components. So say in the case you have like really weird components that you didn't really want to make in the early game. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a good example, but the most common example is actually bow sword. Bow sword with cybernetic is a little bit stronger because most of the time you can just put bow and sword on 2 different units. You're getting the cyber value on 2 different units as opposed to one. But generally speaking, you should be staying away from cyber augments even more in the early game when you have a good makeable items. So in your case, you have a good makeable item. You made I think both
Yeah.
Rageblade and Last Whisper both have merit. I think either or is fine. I think in the case of Caitlyn, it's actually completely fine to make Rageblade, but most of the time people would be making Last Whisper first.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. That's a little bit of a nitpick. I think Rageblade giving you a lot of direction is really good. Ashe is also an Exalted this game, so
Yep.
it's a little bit added value. Most of the time, when you build Rageblade, you're declaring to both yourself and to anyone who scouts you that you are playing Ashe. So like that's something like that's not like valuable, but it's something to note. It's something
Keep in
that's
mind.
like worth thinking about.
I
For
understand.
rerolls, all right, you just roll 4 times. Aphelios is worth picking up. Senna Aphelios. So Aphelios is like a really good item holder for Rageblade, just in the early game.
Okay.
You lose Ghostly, but he's just a much significantly stronger unit than Caitlyn. So even at 1 star, he's going to be really good to hold your items. Jax 2 is good. You should be looking for a Warden to pair with him. Yeah, The best one is going to be a Lowy, but oh. So in this case, you would have rather had a Caitlyn. The best way to have set up your board for this turn, if you picked up everything, mind you, it doesn't cost you to pick up this Aphelios, right? Like you buy it, and then if you don't like it, you sell it at the end of the turn. But say we pick up this Aphelios, and then we roll, and then we're thinking about. So the best way to do this is that because you got 2 Caitlyn's in the shop, you could have actually sold your Caitlyn with Rageblade and remade it, and still had a 2-star. So you would have, like, say you sell the first one, you obviously buy the 2 more after that, you still get a Caitlyn too. But moving the Rageblade onto Aphelios would be stronger. This goes back to like what I said earlier about it's a little bit about meta knowledge. It's not entirely obvious whether an Aphelios 2 would be stronger, or sorry, an Aphelios 1 would be stronger than a Caitlyn 2. Something similar is like, it's not readily obvious if, say, an Amumu 1 is stronger than a Jax 2 or a Garen 2, right? Units that have the same trait but are 3 cost are generally comparable to an upgraded 1 cost. So it's worth thinking about, yeah. But the thing is, Aphelios has a lot more longevity than your Caitlyn. So something you mentioned once again is like you're having trouble like looking for item holders, and something about your early game, kind of like transition to your late game. Like Aphelios 1 is like comparable to Caitlyn 1. I would actually Aphelios 1 is comparable to Caitlyn 2. I would say Aphelios 1 is stronger as an item holder. However, Aphelios 1 has the upside of being upgraded to Aphelios 2 for like stage 3 and stage 4, right? So say you don't hit your Ashe 1 or Ashe 2, then you can item hold an Aphelios 2 for a lot longer than you can item hold a K2 for, right? So you have to think about kind of like holding your units in that way as well. And that's just like, you could have played Aphelios over the Senna as well and still had a Caitlyn 2 in your case. And it's just not like, you pretty much skipped out on the option. So being able to like hold your options is like really, really important. So in your case, like this Yorick and Garen probably could be hold as well, just because at the end of the day, if you don't like those options, then you just sell them at the end of the turn and you still make interest and you don't really lose anything out of it, right?
Yeah.
Overall, I think your early game worked out really well, because with Toxin, it's better to actually be playing Caitlyn over Aphelios. But like, once again, if that were true, then we would just sell the Aphelios, right? And there would be there's no cost to doing that. But yeah, Toxin's really good. So Ink Shadow's really good. I think you played the strongest board. Pretty much like, despite everything I said, you still ended up finding the strongest board that you could. It's important to pick econ here. You did, so that's good. There's nothing in the shop worth buying. I would hold the Warden, so Gnar, just because at this point you can't make 20 regardless of whether or not you win or lose. If you pre-level, you're down to 12, which still allows you to buy 2 costs of your choice. Gnar is really good for your level 5, so it's worth picking up Gnar. It's just thinking about your board in like 1 or 2 turns from now. Yeah. It's like, Gnar's not good on your board immediately this turn because you can't fit it, but it's going to be it's important next turn to be able to fit a unit, and it is better than Shen, right?
Yeah.
Just because, once again, you're supplementing your main front line, which is this Jax, with his synergy.
Okay. So, in my head, I wasn't sure if I should supplement Jax as the front line, or Caitlyn with items as the back line with Ghost. Well, I guess she has Ghostly already with
her. So like, Shen's not adding anything. So because Shen's not adding anything, it's probably better to just play play the, what's his name? Gnar. Sorry. Yeah, this is fine. Chain on Jax is fine. Nice. You sold the Caitlyn, or sorry, the Sivir. It was good. There's a Shen and Shop pair that you should buy. So this is another, I guess, like small limitation of the mobile client, is that like you can't see your shop while you're playing. You can leave it open, but it's like obviously pretty distracting.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of space.
So yeah, I mean, there's just a Shen parent shop you should buy, because obviously Shen 2 has some value. So
right.
I think you could just ignore this Caitlyn. Yeah, and I think you do. Nice.
I think I locked the shop because I wanted to make 30.
Okay, so that's not worth it. This Caitlyn is not too valuable. Generally speaking, in the early game, it's very rare to find cases where you should be locking your shop. I think large in a way, if you just take, like, if something you take away from this, I guess, session is that like you never lock your shop, that's perfectly okay. Like, you never have to be locking your shop. If pretty much you can get to very, very high levels of play without ever having lock your shop. So locking your shop in general is just like a weak play. It's like, it costs you something. like yes, you gain your econ, you make 30, but you also lose 2 gold because your shop is worth 2 gold, right? If you were to reroll that turn, you'd have to pay 2 gold to do it, but you gain one gold in return. And this Caitlyn's also just not that powerful for you.
So I see the Yone, so now I'm like, oh, maybe I can get Exalted back in.
Yeah, here, like I see what you're saying. I think like the better play would have still just been to sell Caitlyn and Yone to make 50. These are not units that are going to fit super easily on your board, so it's just better to like kind of like stay away from them if possible.
That makes. I wouldn't have thought of it that way because in my head it's like, okay, if I have another Kate 2, even if I don't end up 3-starring her, at least I can sell the one I have, get the items off of her,
Well,
and still have. But I guess the unit itself is not a unit that I'm going to be keeping.
Right, exactly. And the 3-star unit is not something that you should actually be all that interested in. Very small thing is that Alawi is significantly better than Shen. Gives you Warden, but Alawi is also the better unit. In general, 3 costs will be like 3 costs that perform a similar role to 2 costs generally will be better. Like it's a fairly obvious statement, but like it's still like worth saying out loud. Like if 2 units do the same thing, so Senna and Caitlyn functionally do the same thing. They're just like a backline DPS sniper. Caitlyn's going to outperform Senna. Otherwise, other way around. Senna's going to outperform Caitlyn most of the time, right? Same idea here is that like Alawi is the same thing as Shen. So even if you didn't have Warden, obviously with Warden, it's not even close. It's Alawi stronger. But even if you didn't have Warden, Alawi's like pretty much 1-to-1 just a better unit than Shen. And it provides the same value to you, which to you is ghostly. In your case, obviously Warden matters once again, but like that's not going to be true for every case. But yeah, so just put that in, Alawi. And here on a streak, on a 4 streak, given how strong you are, it's actually really cheap for you to level. So if you leveled here, you drop to 40 gold, which loses you 1 gold. You could even theoretically sell Yone, Jax, and Caitlyn if you win to make 50 gold again, so you'd be losing 0 gold to level here. It's generally correct on 3-1 to be leveling to 6 above like 30, 40, and 50 gold. Most commonly 40 and 50, it's like almost like a no-brainer, you should do it. But especially if you're on a streak, it's really good just because obviously you're getting an extra unit. Most people aren't going to be level 6 on this turn, so because that's the case, you just get like kind of like a freebie round.
I guess those are the little like nuances that I don't know because I looked up the, like the leveling guides and it's always like 3-2 after you pick your augment, you go to 6.
Yeah.
So I don't always know when to deviate from those things. Like like when is it a special exception?
Yeah, so here I actually wouldn't have worked out. You would have lost. This guy's really strong. But that being said, yeah, I'd say in general, the leveling guide's going to tell you you level on 3-2, 3-5, 3-2, 3-5, 4-1, 4-2, 4-5, 5-2, and then also 2-1, 2-2, and 2-5. So pretty much like whatever. I just listed a bunch of numbers, not all that relevant, sorry, but like it's gonna tell you like stages you want to level in. But I think like a better framework to work out your leveling is that if you can level above 30, 40, and 50 gold, those are when you should start thinking about it. So it's not like every time you can level above 30 gold you should do it, but it's like if in this case you can level above 30 gold, give it some thought and like figure out why not you shouldn't do it or shouldn't do it, right?
Okay.
So it's like that's just gonna be a lot better. Like obviously, like in anything, but in TFT, there's like a lot of rules that people teach you as you kind of like improve at the game or as you get started in the game. Oh, level on this turn, roll on this turn, do this, do that, and X, Y, Z. It doesn't like that's true, but as you get better, you're going to have to think about like ways like okay, where do I like where does this rule not apply, right? And you have to think, and then like I think thinking about the game or thinking about like anything in terms of like that way will just help you improve long term, no matter really what you're doing. But especially in TFT, it's just like when every decision you make is just like you just have to be thinking about okay, why am I actually doing this, right? So yeah, just like start thinking about things like that. It's gonna be pretty helpful. That being said, you would have lost this fight anyway. I think you have a chain, so you should with chain you should almost just slam Brambles or almost always just slam Bramble. I think it's possible that if you slammed Bramble here and then put in Alawi, you actually could have won. I would say that it's unlikely, but it is possible at least. So he has Kiana too, so Kiana 2 is really strong. So featherweights right now is good for you, but most of the time you're going to be getting off your board. I know it looks like you can go for Caitlyn 3 here, but Caitlyn 3 generally speaking or Caitlyn 3-star is generally not that strong, so it's not that good of an augment. Band of Thieves is in general just one of the strongest silver augments at all points in the game, so if you get the option to pick this, you should be picking it. Featherweights is like a lot of value. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even roll the others. Now that I'm looking.
Yeah, yeah. Featherweights is a lot of value if your board never changes. So if you stay on your board forever, then featherweights is really good. But generally speaking, staying on your board forever is not going to be good. Kind of like late games game plan, just because you even at 3 stars, most of these this comp is just like a little bit weak now. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with, but
I mean,
yeah,
I have looked at the tier list. Um, I know some of the forecasts are better now. This is kind of like an older comp, I guess.
hmm this one's really good. I would just take this one immediately. Uh, okay, so with Radiance, Radiance is like a huge learning curve, especially for newer players. I
Okay.
would say you should just take the first one that like looks okay. This looks really
Hmm.
good just because it gives you your Lost Whisper. You can turn this glove into an IE or like a Thief's Gloves or something like that, and then Rod Chain together makes Crown Guard. Crown Guard's an excellent frontline item. So this gives you everything you want. Um,
Okay.
there can be better ones. I'll see your roll down and see if you end up taking a better one. But this is like very very excellent. This is like
You
top
said
tier.
this one gives me IE.
No, this one gives you Lost Whisper and it gives you Crown Guard, and
Oh,
this
oh,
extra glove that you have on Caitlyn can eventually be turned into
literally.
IE or something
Yeah.
instead of
Oh,
Lost
okay.
Whisper.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
right now, as your board is constructed, this glove should always turn into a Lost Whisper because Lost Whisper is just going to be the most important item you can get from your position. But then this box gives you your Lost Whisper that you need, as well as giving you another frontline item. Your frontline item right now you only have one. Eventually, you want to have at least three. So this gives you pretty much three offensive items. It's like you have Rageblade, Lost Whisper. This glove can turn into an offensive item, and you have two defensive items, and you can look for your third one later. So like looking forwards towards late game, kind of like one of the more important things you should be thinking about is like how do I get a 3 item tank and a 3 item carry? Like that's like in terms of like fixing your item setup or item economy, as we like to call it, is just like understanding how best to figure out a way to get 3 item carry and 3 item tank. And pretty much this box is absolutely insane for that. Like this is like a top 5% box. There's gonna be better
Okay.
ones. I can think of a couple off the top of my head, but especially the learning curve for like picking this treasure armory is actually really really hard. So I don't fault you for making a mistake, but just like thinking, I think like using the idea I came up with to kind of like help you pick out of this box is going to be really important. Like you should be thinking about like what are you actually looking for out of this box. So your box is actually really good, really solid. It's still worse than the first box, but
Yeah. I think
it's
I
not
had
bad.
the idea of like back line, front line, but I think the first one was definitely not as
Mhm.
better. Like,
Okay, so I imagine at this point, because you took featherweights, we're just going to commit to this comp. This comp is not bad. I would shy away from stacking jacks if possible.
you
Um,
said shy away from what? I'm sorry.
I would shy away from stacking jacks if possible. He tends to be weaker. Generally, Shen is the stack because you're at level 6. I don't know if mobile displays the shop odds. I believe it does once you open every shop,
It does.
but the
Yeah.
shop odds for hitting a 1 cost on level 6 is a lot lower than hitting a 2 cost. So
Hmm.
it's best to like you're pretty much more likely to hit a 2 cost 3 star than a 1 cost 3 star. And obviously the 2 cost 3 stars are going to be stronger than the 1 cost 3 stars, right? So in that case, we'd much rather be stacking Senna and like Shen rather than Kate and Jax because you are less likely to hit them 3 star. That being said, you have a lot of copies, so maybe you're more likely.
Hmm.
But like high level is like you're less likely to be upgrading them anyway, as well as like they're weaker. So we'd much rather like at this point you'd probably just sell your Caitlyn. It's probably best to just sell your Caitlyn and move items to Senna immediately, and as soon as you have a Shen 2 to sell your Jax to move items to Shen.
Okay.
That being said, we have a Caitlyn 3, so it's not the worst, but um Caitlyn 3 is still like
So,
the long-term value of this Caitlyn 3 is still significantly lower than Senna. That being said, it's actually like pretty good and you hit really fast. So I talked about the likelihood of you not hitting or the likelihood of you hitting. That being said, because you hit so fast, um, that doesn't come into play, right? But
yeah, but I
obviously,
mean, I could have easily, just as easily not hit as well.
exactly. And that being said, you could just as easily not hit Senna, but like just like from a game plan perspective, like you should be thinking
Hmm.
about this, right? Um, okay, this is unlucky for you. It's actually very lucky for you. So what you should do with this encounter specifically, it's not that relevant because it doesn't come into play that often. If you're playing a reroll comp, in your case, you're going for 3 star Shen,
Hmm. Hmm.
Senna. You should just like accumulate 50 gold for the next 2 rounds, and then literally roll it to 0 before this runs out. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are going to be inclined to stay above 50 gold to hit your 3 stars. With this specific encounter, you should literally just roll it to 0 after 2 turns. So after the neutral round, after wolves, just roll it down to 0 to hit all your 3 stars. It's, the likelihood that you hit is extraordinarily high with this. Yeah, it's not like a common thing. So does it display shop odds? It does display shop odds. I mean, with this encounter, you're likely to hit every single 3-star that you want, so... But yeah, you do have to be rolling. Oh, you're hitting a lot.
Yeah. So because I have so much, I think I keep
Yeah, you just roll
rolling.
it anyway. Okay, this is excellent. So it's actually like you're getting baited into rolling, but the thing is, it's also correct to roll. So, I think so right now the most important item that you need for your comp is some sort of armor shred. So either that be Last Whisper or Even Shroud are both fine. I would say you slam IE and go for Even Shroud. Belt is an easier component to find than bow. Bow is generally a high value component even in the late game. So for example, this stone plate, it's gonna be tough to like. You are going to win this fight, I think, but it is tougher to get through this stone plate because you don't have armor shred, right?
Right.
Obviously, that's something the Last Whisper earlier would have fixed, but like moving past that, it's like how do we get a source of armor shred even when we don't have it, right? And then you should be thinking about your remaining components in that way. I think like making an IE is fine. I think it's perfectly fine to actually greed all 3 components just for to give yourself 2 outs to get armor shred, either Last Whisper or bow or belt. But making an IE is perfectly fine. So you choose to make an IE, that's fine. Okay, so another minor thing.
Yep.
It's generally I don't mention this to like this is like it's so minor that it doesn't affect your play that often, but it's relevant sometimes. So because I don't know how accurately you can judge that you're going to win this fight, but I could have told you you're going to win this fight at least. Obviously, I play a lot of I play a lot of games, but
Yeah.
so if you know for a fact that you are winning this fight, then it's best to hold all your resources for as long as possible. So pretty much, if you can go into every fight and your accuracy for judging the fight is 100%, then
Mm-hmm.
every fight you win, you should not be making any decisions, because you
Okay.
want to like hold off you pretty much you want to gather as much information as possible before you make a decision. So in your case, if you didn't make this IE right, and you waited
I
one
would have
round
spoken.
and you would have won, next turn, you have my bow augment. So it's a next turn is an augment turn. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's like resources being given to you. The best augment here is probably Capricious, I want to say, but if you needed Last Whisper, the best augment here is you have my bow. So
Yeah.
because that's the case, if you didn't slam IE last turn, you have my bow. That being said, you have my bow is really weak in your scenario because it doesn't give you a Last Whisper. So in that case, I would still take I would take Capricious. But you have my bow would be really, really good if you can get your armor pen solved, because like that's like one of the last remaining problems of your build is that you don't have you're doing 99% armor damage. That's not true because you're playing Ghostly, but you're doing predominantly armor damage or physical damage,
Yeah.
and you don't have a source of physical shred.
Right.
So pretty much that whatever. That's not the most relevant. The more relevant thing is that like you want to be holding off making decisions until you have gathered the most information possible.
Okay.
Is kind of like the thing. And also, minor thing is that Senna gives AD to units beside her when she casts. So having Senna and Caitlyn next to each other has some value as well, but not.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
This is
So
probably the worst possible slam, actually.
no, actually, Hurricane's an excellent slam. Once again,
Really?
the
Okay.
reason why this is wrong is because of what I kind of talked about earlier. But it's like Hurricane in general is quite a strong slam on AD carry units. Oh,
Okay.
so you actually move it next to each other anyway.
But not for the reason you said
Not
it.
for the
I
reason
was
I said.
just.
Yeah, you're probably just moving, but that's fine. Like
Yeah.
that's fine. But now you know, right? Like if that's not
Yeah.
like that's not something actually even I knew until I played like probably like 100 games. So I mean, like it's not something
Yeah.
that's like the most relevant thing. It's just something that like okay, you can get a little bit of value here, type of deal. Okay, we sold Shannon. We're deciding to pump levels now. This is actually I'd say in your spot, it's probably not the most correct just because you had 6 gens, but it's perfectly fine to do because when you have your backliner set up, so if you just level continuously and just start putting in frontline or frontline-esque units, your build's going to
Hmm.
be quite strong. I think in general you're going to cap a little bit lower just because this comp is not that good, but hypothetically,
Yeah.
if this comp were really good, then your spot and like the decisions you're making would be like good decisions. Um, that being said, like it's fine to be playing a
Yeah.
bad comp if you don't know it's bad, because like pretty much the important part about TFT and like improving at TFT is like the decision making. So the decisions you're making are not like they're quite good, I would say, right? But so once again, like going back to your profile, like something I noticed, like you had a lower win rate. This
Hmm.
is like a comp that you're not going to win with that often. It's just like
Right.
unfortunately that's true. But I don't think you're playing it particularly poorly. Don't
Okay.
play three sniper. Three sniper doesn't do anything. Okay, that was a bad move. But
Yeah, that was horrible. I know. It's
also,
because in my head, it's like if I hit Ash, then I can have four sniper and have exhausted in.
mhm,
Actually, no, I'm tripping.
yeah, you don't get exalted. You get 2 out of 3
No,
exalted.
I don't. Yeah, that's
Something you should know is that this toxin. I don't know if you knew you could do this, but if you take it out, it bounces onto your bench and you can put it on Senna. We talked
hmm
about Senna being the stronger unit. Toxin's also better on Senna just because toxin wounds, so it's anti heal. Um, because it gives you anti heal, it's just better to give it on a unit that does AOE. Kaylin doesn't do AOE. She just
yeah.
snipes. So it would have been better to move the toxin onto Senna. Pretty much
Okay.
as soon as you hit Senna 2. That was true. Or Senna 3 rather. I mean, I think from this point, you're like the decisions that you do to win your game are going to be relatively minor. Um, like just because like you're forced into a lot of certain decisions.
hmm
So on average, I would say it's not correct to be leveling on. Where'd you level on this turn? 4-6.
Yeah.
Just because you want to wait until neutrals, just because you get like 2 extra econ turns. So if you level on
Right.
this turn and roll, you lose like let's you say hypothetically you roll to 0, but obviously you can roll to 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. But like you lose this turn, like let's say you roll to 0, you lose 5 gold this turn, and then you lose another 5 gold next turn because it's a free turn next turn, and also you lose
Yeah.
4 gold in EXP. So you would have to you wouldn't have to pump one extra time. There's one less time you have to pump, so that's 4 gold that you could have as well. So it's just better. Like even, I understand you're winning, so once again, like high level, I don't think the decisions you're making are bad. Like I think you're thinking about the right way. I assume you want to keep your streak, so you want to get a little bit stronger. I
hmm
actually we watched the next fight. It does look like it was likely a level diff to some extent. Like it was a really close fight. But as soon as you hit this Ash, you shouldn't be rolling anymore. You should just keep your 20 gold. Just once again, you want to be making the extra econ breakpoint. So this fight's like reasonably close. I don't think it's a level diff, but like it's not that far from a level diff, right? It's not something you would
Yeah.
like load into and immediately understand that it wasn't a level diff. But the main thing is like you definitely shouldn't be rolling on this turn just because like once the fight's already started, there's not really a point to rolling.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
What items did we make? We made a GA. Okay, so we should not be G'ing Arcane. So right now, our main carry has 2.5 items. It's most important to just give her 3 items. The most
Oh,
important thing is to give her 3 items. There's nothing more important than that. But also another thing is that like this Kane is also very useless. He's 1 star, doesn't do anything.
yeah.
An upgrade, you can make an argument, but no matter what, the most important thing would still be to give her a 3rd item, even if it's a bad item. So there's like a couple like with bow, it's such a good item to have open, just because you can make Last Whisper. Like Last Whisper is good. Well, Last Whisper is excellent. Giant Slayer is excellent. Another Hurricane's fine. Red buff is fine even if you have Toxin. Um,
hmm
there's another one. Shiv is actually really good in your spot, but like that's just because Ghostly does a lot of magic damage. You would not be looking for Shiv ideally, but Shiv's actually
No,
good in
no,
your
no.
spot. So pretty much this GA is really bad. Just because you don't even have a Kane pair and your carry. I know you have Kaylin, but your real main
Yeah.
carry is Senna, and she does not have 3 items yet. So the most important thing is just to understand that you need to have 3 items Senna, and because you have bulk, your floating component in this case it would be chain because you'd make GS could just go on anyone and give it 200 HP. It's pretty good.
I
But
think here I'm looking to switch out of four sniper and into six ghostly. And like muscle memory wise, I'm so used to building uh what's it called? I forget the name of the item now, even though I've been playing it so much. For
Edge of Night.
Kane, yeah, Edge of Night. So That's
So
why I just
you
automatic.
yeah, so you only have to do that if like you're doing Kane primary, but because your Kane is not your primary carry, it's not important to invest resources into him. So this fight is a fight you would have won if you did not have GA Kane. If you had like
Right.
3 item Senna. Like look at your Senna. She outputted 6600 damage. With the GS that's like easily 9k. And I mean she's doing the most damage on your team. Like, some of this Caitlyn damage is fake because if she also unit and they have like 500 HP, she does 2000 damage to it. Did you really do 2000 damage? No, you did 500,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Another thing is that like because you're so healthy, because you're so strong, you should not be so eager to change your board. So your board is perfectly acceptable the way it is. You don't have to be like I understand rolling for 6 ghostly is like what the guides will tell you. It's what even like I might tell you in a comp video, right? But that being said, like because your board, you understand the minimum kind of like conditions required for your board to be strong. Your board has good front line, has a good back line, and you might as well pretty much accumulate some econ, go 9, and then figure out 6 ghostly or like maybe legendaries around level 9. And you're also very healthy. So if you end up losing a couple of fights on the stage, then that's also acceptable, right? So it's just like figuring out a way. Like this is like going to go back to kind of understanding how to win games more often. It's like understanding how to play for a higher capped board. Yes, 6 ghostly gives you an upgrade over your current board because it's better than 4 sniper. But in the long term, throwing away all your gold to make this 6 ghostly for like maybe 2-3 turns of extra strength is a lot less valuable than like waiting out 5 turns worth of gold while you're the highest HP in the lobby and just like going level 9 or like pretty much doing something more efficient with your gold, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I mean, I haven't really looked at the patch notes to see which of the artifacts are.
Yeah, that's not a big deal, honestly. What was the correct one? It's light shield, but that's something I'll know. That's something like 99% of players will not know.
Yeah, I
Because like
haven't
I actually have
like.
to, yeah. It's whatever. Like whichever one you pick is fine. I'm gonna be honest. There's like so much. It's like it's just like so much. Like you can't expect like every player to know these.
No.
And also, this is not something you can actually know by like reading the item. So it doesn't look like there's too much you can be doing. I think at this point you're just supposed to be going level 9. You lose a couple fights here and there. So like, do you notice how you're winning every fight? Yes, you have Kane too, but I promise you, you would have been winning every. Okay, so like I'm gonna look at our board to make sure. Like you would be winning like 99% of these fights. I actually think this one you might lose without Kane too, but you'd be winning most of these fights if you just had the exact same board you had on 5-1, and just made a Giant Slayer.
Okay.
I think you would have lost this one, but you would have won. You would have won 5-1 for sure. You won 5-2. You won 5-3. So you like the first fight you would have lost was 5-5. Well, how did you even win this one?
Okay.
Actually, your Kane didn't do much. Honestly. Oh, you sniped. I see. You sniped the one. This fight I think it's like a toss up whether or not. I think given if your fight RNG goes the same way. So once again, look at your Senna's damage, 8k, but that's like down. When we say like, yeah, you have up a component, but a component's fake. So you're down a full item, really. She's doing like 20% more damage than Giant Slayer, just like 1-to-1. So, um, so we are finding a way to end up making it to 9. Nashers. It's not Nashers. You don't want to be stacking Morgana here. Morgana's a trade bot. Probably just another Kane item. So you went out of your way to make a GA Kane. You should be thinking of a way to get Kane 3 items at this point.
Oh.
So like
Instead
now
of,
we're getting to the point in the game where you're thinking of like an off carry. So you actually have 2 carries already, but like you're trying to get another carry online, right? Like so we made GA Kane. This Steadfast on Chen that you got off the carousel could have been a Kane item. I actually don't know if your options. It tends not to be that relevant, but like pretty much you should be thinking of a way to find a way to get another 3 item unit, whether it be a 3 item tank or a 3 item carry. Both are relevant or both are acceptable, but in your case we're not getting either. So actually whichever item you got here, so Steadfast is actually a really good pick. Just throw it on Kane. It's just better on Kane.
okay.
Kane's a better unit. Tanks more, does more damage. It's just more useful on him. Same thing with this artifact that you end up picking. It didn't really matter which one you take. Just find one to put on Kane is pretty much the more important lesson to be learned. Actually, I guess I shouldn't have skipped this carousel. I didn't think it'd be that relevant, but yeah, just like finding a way to find pretty much you want to keep finding ways to get 3 items on the same unit. Is
Okay. Yeah,
like
I do tend to spread them around too
yeah,
much.
it's just better to have like that kind of idea when you play. So same thing here. Like you get Nashers. Who'd you put Nashers on? Oh, Lissandra. Yeah, it doesn't do anything on Lissandra, unfortunately. I think in this case, like you are going to go second, right? Just by HP alone, but
Yeah,
you're gonna go second with no chance of going first. So like you're gonna
right.
go second because someone's going to die to like one of the strong players, and it doesn't look like you have any chance of beating this guy, right? But
Hmm.
you could have found a way if you went and eventually played legendaries like Aurelia 2. It is a lot tougher to change your board up that way, but like because you got second place, we just have to be the only improvement we can make over second place is first place, right? Like how could we have gone first place this game?
Right.
It's just if you accumulate your gold better and like start upgrading legendaries, maybe had a Senna with 3 items, like minor stuff like this is going to go a long way and like actually be able to win this game. That being said, I'm looking at his board. It's really tough to win. This guy's also going level 10. Honestly, this guy might be a Smurf. I'm not even
Yeah, he's
kidding.
level 9 with 50 gold. I was like, and he doesn't even have an econ augment if I'm looking
Yeah, it
properly.
doesn't. This is not very common. At this I
At this
imagine at
year.
flat, yeah, at this elo. I like that. I don't mean that as like a slight against you. It's just like
No,
I've
no, no.
played
I
all
got you.
elos. Like it's just not that common. So this guy actually might be a Smurf. I could be wrong, but you're not winning. I mean, he's really strong.
No, 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 no way.
But like there is a world where you could win. Is the more important thing. Like so once again, like you're thinking because you got second because you did well. We just have to think of like wait, how could we have gone first, right? As for like the other things, especially in the early game, those are just like things that you should apply across TFT in general. So it's like, yeah.
Now, I haven't been playing a lot of the Shina comp.
Mhm.
I've been playing like Heavenly Yone and stuff like that. Um, but how would is there anything you would say as far as transitioning into comps later? Because whenever I play Heavenly, like I pick up like Malphite, Kha'Zix, Nico, and like I only play them. Like I don't play strong unit quality early and then transition into it. You know what I mean?
Wait, do you have a? I'm still sharing my screen, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you have to think about it. Item holders. So right, so like say you want to play Heavenly, right? These are most obvious. And what items do these guys use, right? Like it's all the melee items. I don't know, GA or something. Where's
Mm-hmm.
GA? I mean honestly, it's like it's all of this garbage. GA should always be okay. Lost Whisper.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's like these types of items. Like what units hold these items well? So predominantly the best one is going to be
Recent.
Darius. So as a one cost, it's
Oh,
Darius. So Darius holds like BT GA very very well. He's an AP unit, but like for the most part, this is still fine. Like Darius is the best BT holder in the early game. If for 2 costs, it's like Kiana. So if you want to like pick up 6 Kianas, eventually sell one, move the items to one of these two, and then replace your Kiana. That's also perfectly acceptable. But you just have to think about it in terms of item holders. Some of this is like very meta dependent. So like sometimes your strongest board throughout your early game is you don't have a Darius. The best thing to play is Darius, but sometimes you have a Darius 1, but you have like, I don't know, say Sivir 2 and Teemo 2. And
yeah.
in this case, it's probably better to not play towards Kayn and Lee Sin because the items on these guys are just like a little bit different, right? Like I don't want to be putting a Titans on Sivir. Like Last Whisper's fine, and maybe like IE's fine, and Morello, but like and like these items could go on Kane, but the setup for this setup, like obviously I have some sort of random backline, doesn't really matter. This is like a really common level 4 board. Um, this setup, I could theoretically play Kane and Lee Sin and like eventually find a BT later, but it's also better to just play like a different comp like Kaisa or something or Ash, something that better uses these items. That being said, if you already have a BT and then you get this comp online, right? Sometimes you get like 3 Teemos in a shop or like 2 Sivers while you already have a Siver on bench, right? And you already have a BT slam. It is perfectly acceptable to like just put BT on like say a frontliner as a shield and or like a Teemo. But like it's just the more important thing is like it's not about transitioning so much as it's about like how do you play like a good board early game so that like you don't die and then eventually assuming you have the right items as soon as you get to 8 you'll be able to transition to functionally anything you want. So like obviously if I have a Bloodthirster, I'm not particularly interested in playing a Kaisa because Bloodthirster means I've already used up a sword. A sword is likely to be a Kaisa item, but obviously BT is bad on Kaisa, so instead of playing Kaisa I should be playing stuff like Kayn and Lee Sin, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
Otherwise maybe I'm playing this board but I hit a Kaisa 2 on my roll down or whatever, and like I have to find a way to use this BT. Another thing is that I could put BT on Solace or even worse. Okay, do not put it on Galileo.
Right,
But
right,
like
right.
hypothetically, I could put it on Galio if I have a Kai'Sa 2. Because like it's better to put it on Galio and have a Kai'Sa 2 with three, like I don't know, say I have an IE Lost Whisper.
Hmm.
It's better to put it on. I don't. It's not better to put on Galio, but it's better to put it on someone and play this board rather than put it on a Kane I don't have. Right? Like if I don't have Kane, I'm not putting BT on Kane. Unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
just how it works. But so. Hmm?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim.
Oh, it's fine. You can speak. But pretty much the thing I'm saying is just like find a way to play around your early game board, and then like given the items you make for your early game units, find a way to like figure out which comp you're playing in the mid game. So like if you have Lost Whisper, the reason why Lost Whisper is so good is because it's usable in every comp. It's good in Kane, it's good in Kai'Sa, it's good in Ashe. It's best in slot on literally all three comps. So I make a Lost Whisper. If I hit an Ashe 2, I'm playing Ashe 2. If I hit a Kane 2, I'll play Kane 2. Stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because I was wondering about that. Do you play based on what items you're given, or do you kind of grease your components to make like best in slot items for the comp you want to play?
You really do have to do a bit of both. So it's like it's the
Okay.
balancing act, right? It's like you have to make items so you don't die. Um,
Mhm.
like pretty much if I have a Sivir and I have a sword, cloak, bow, sword, cloak, bow, sword, cloak, bow. Sure, just sword, cloak, bow, and a Lost Whisper. Then because I'm playing around say a Sivir 2, I'm not gonna make a BT because BT doesn't do anything for me. I'd much
Right.
rather make say a Hurricane and play like Ash or something, or I make nothing. Another option is make nothing, and then
Hmm.
you're only ever 2 to 3 turns off your next item anyway. So say I make nothing. This is generally going to be more true if I'm losing. So if I'm streaking, I just want to make items. But say I'm like not really streaking and I want to just make something random like Hurricane. Say I make Hurricane and just play towards Kaisa because it's strong on Sivir. That's reasonable. Say I want to greed and then like I see my next component. If my next component's a Rod, then I make Rage Blade and play Ash. Say my next item is a Chain, then I can make BT Titans on whoever my frontliner is at the time. Let's say Garen, very common.
Hmm.
Then I make BT Titans and I play Kane, and then I have 3 item Kane as well, right? So
Okay.
it's just like finding the balancing act. It's not always easy. This is like it's a generalized question that like it's just hard
Yeah.
to answer perfectly. But yeah.
I get you. Okay. And as far as comps go, Ash Porcelain's obviously very contested, Heavenly, Kane and stuff. So would you suggest aiming to kind of like Fast Nine and then play around five costs?
No,
Because
no.
okay,
It's too hard. It's a very strong strategy. I don't know how many of my videos you actually watch, or if you watch any of them, but like in all my comms videos, I try not to talk about Fast Nine too much, just because yes, it's a really strong strategy. Yes, it's very fun even, but I think
mm-hmm.
recommending it for your average player, just understanding the conditions to Fast Nine is like not simple. So it's just better to play like level 8 comps, especially in the current meta. There's so many good level 8 comps that are viable. All the most of the 4 comps carries are like viable in some capacity. Like Ash is great, Kai'Sa's great, Kane's good, Lee Sin's good, Lilia is playable, Morgana's good. Morgana's good as an off carry. Like not like all the 4 cost tanks are really good. Nautilus, Ornn, Silas, Galio kind of sucks, but Annie's really good. Pretty much like Syndra's really good. Like all these 4 costs are good. I would be very hesitant to like think about Fast 9 as your like dominant strategy. Now that being said, I think like improving as a player, like this, it is a strategy. It is this powerful strategy that you should look to employ at some point. But yeah,
Not every game.
yeah, not every game. Exactly.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
Make
Yeah. In that case, obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If something comes up, you can just DM me.
sure.
I'll probably answer. But yeah, yeah, that's the coaching video.
Oh,
Hopefully, you
yeah,
found it helpful, or not
very
video.
helpful.
That's the session, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot. This was great.
All right. I'll talk to you again sometime, or yeah, see you later.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bye.
Peace. All right, that was the coaching video. If you guys are fans of this content, obviously please like the video and subscribe if you made it this far. Otherwise, just leave a comment down in the description or down in the comment section below if if there's anything else you guys would like to see, and or if there's any feedback you might have. And yeah, until next time, peace.